Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 184 of Lonely Gods. I'm your host, David, and I'm joined here, as always, by Kate.
Every time I hear those numbers, it scares me.
I know, we're getting so close to 200.
I know. Do you think... I don't even think we've had 200 total views on these fucking things.
We definitely have. You shut your mouth. It's
Oh, come on. We get, like, what, two listeners?
we get like 10 to 20 views an episode.
Oh, really? Okay, that's a lot more than I thought.
And it's not like we make them readily available, Kate.
No, we kind of took them off Random Assault without any notice, and then just kind of put them somewhere and didn't tell anyone. So
we also haven't put them on an audio feed in years. They're just YouTube videos.
Look, YouTube is where it's at, man.
No, it's not. You know.
Yes, it is. That's all the kids care about. YouTube and Twitch. Nobody does fucking Podbean anymore.
Everyone does podcasts through a podcast service, not just on YouTube.
Nah.
But I don't care, because it's not about getting listeners. It's about me talking about Doctor Who with one of my good friends.
That's true. That's true. And I mean, I would think that our target audience of Doctor Who pimps are kind of small. It's like you gotta like classic Who, but you also gotta not mind the word cunt.
And
you gotta listen to
dramas.
Big Finish.
Yeah.
So yeah,
we've narrowed down our audience so hyper focused.
Yeah, well, I mean, so basically it's you, me, and about 4 other people, I think. But that's okay. That's okay.
So, all right.
All right.
So we have several stories to talk about this week.
We do. I don't know if there's any news really to talk about.
I mean, I see at least one news story a week about the new season of Doctor Who, but I ignore most of them.
I did. My phone sends me notifications about Doctor Who because I've searched for related things so many times. But yeah, it's all season 11 stuff, and I don't give a fuck.
I'm not anti-season 11. Just give me the fucking season or shut up. I don't care. I need to see it. I need to see what you're doing.
It is less. It's less than. It's less that I'm anti that, and more just that I don't plan on watching it first run, so it's not relevant to me.
Yeah,
right now.
You don't watch anything first run unless John's let's watch the season.
No, that's not entirely true because I watch Simpsons and stuff first run. Because
you're already caught. You only got caught up to Doctor Who a month ago.
Well, by your logic, I would be watching it first run, but I'm not. So anyway,
we'll see what John says. Maybe you will.
For Big Finish stuff, there's let's see. Okay, well, River Song Volume 4 is out now. If you want to see
Volume 4.
Yeah, well, hey, look, it's Big Finish. Since they get their claws into something, they spam the shit out of it. So yeah, River Song Volume 4. If you want to see Alex Kingston and Tom Baker play together, then that's your jam. Also, there's a trailer for River 5, which is a whole bunch of masters. It's got Missy, it's got Crispy Master, it's got Derek Jacobi, it's got TV Movie Master. So if you want a cavalcade of masters, that's also that. And yeah, there's a new the new season of Early Adventures has started. Some first Doctor tales that I guess we'll get to in a few weeks. That's pretty much it.
The second Doctor Adventures for sure.
Yes. Well, we got to get through what's on our plate. Really, the only thing that actually kind of piqued my interest this week, well, not this week, but actually it was a couple weeks ago now. They had a big Benny sale for this is her 20th anniversary year at Big Finish. So they had a big sale, and pretty much anything she's ever done was discounted. And I held off on it because I have most of the stuff that's available digitally. But I did notice in the news post they did say that they were still pursuing download for the earlier seasons, so that is encouraging. Hopefully they get it finally.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know that they probably can't disclose it, but I am curious as to what exactly the fucking holdup is.
I bet it's a cover artist, because it sounds like something stupid that would happen.
Well, I mean, I guess, but surely you could just commission different cover art.
Yeah, but then you have to pay. It's not just working at a deal to share the profit. It's actually having to pay someone.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know. I don't know.
Finish is a lean operation, I take.
Yeah, it is. It is. But fuck it. If what it takes is to get Benny on digital, just put a fucking black screen with black square Times New Roman font with the story title. I don't give a fuck.
I don't really care either.
I know that doesn't sell audios,
especially if it's digital only. Who cares about the art?
Yeah, but it's just I don't know because like there was like they've gotten a lot of the long-time holdouts, like the early Gallifrey stuff and some of the first few companion chronicles and whatever, and so I don't know why Benny specifically is such a huge problem, because the things that are still holdouts for other stuff, like it's usually just a small handful of releases, whereas with Benny it's 11 full seasons of stuff that's just ugh. So I mean, I'm gonna hold off on that either until we need it for the show, or they've announced that they're gonna go out of print, or they finally get the digital rights to them. But I'm sure as hell not paying shipping for full price. You know what? Whatever. Point is get your shit together. Big Finish. I hate you so much. Anyway, audio stuff, because there's fucking nothing else.
Yeah, let's get into our actual topics for the week then.
Okay, I just pooped.
So we're starting up with our second Doctor adventure.
Yes, the new Companion Chronicles box set.
It's not Companion Chronicles,
but that's what the series is. Yes,
There's too many voices in this to be Companion Chronicles.
Well, yeah, it is the Companion Chronicles Volume 12, the Second Doctor Volume 2.
God damn it!
Yeah, it's. I mean, I have noticed that since they brought Companion Chronicles back with the box set format, they've been having more voices in them and getting them closer to full cast.
Technically, yes, Polly is the companion narrating this story, but then we also have recast Ben, and we also have Fraser Hines as
Patrick Troughton as the Doctor.
Who else would you really want? Like,
no, I mean,
best.
I kind of like that they're using him even where in stories where Jamie isn't.
Yeah, I was like, when this story started, I was like, wait, is Jamie in this story? And I was like, no, this is before he shows up. Like, this is just, but Fraser Hines is just here because he is the best second Doctor. Why would they ever cast anyone else or have anyone else perform that role when he is perfect?
Yes.
So this story is fascinating. Like,
if you say so.
So in between listening to the story and everything, I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard a lot about Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. And like, I mean, I'm a big Jurassic Park fan. I assume you're a big Jurassic Park fan, because who isn't? That first movie is fucking amazing.
Yes, it is. And I've seen all the sequels except for Fallen Kingdom. I don't really plan to, but I'm sure I will by accident somehow.
Yeah. I'm gonna watch it, even though I hear it's two completely different movies stitched together in a very weird way.
Well, I mean, that's like until I find them in on Blu-ray and Amazon's equivalent of the bargain bin, I usually don't pay much attention to movies. So,
I mean, I like Jurassic World. It was dumb.
I thought it was pretty. I thought it was the best sequel.
Yeah, me too.
Because The Lost World was.
If The Lost World would have followed the book, it would have been fine. But
I mean, I hated the book. I hated Lost World. I thought it was awful.
You didn't like Ian Malcolm getting addicted to morphine.
I didn't like Ian Malcolm sitting around in a camper van talking about his theories on evolution and fucking climate change and stuff.
Movie. That's not the book.
That is to the book.
Oh, you're right. It is the book too. I was fine with it, but either way,
I was bored. And then there was like Dinosaur P in the third one, and that was dumb.
Yeah,
and that movie, I have a grudge against it because fucking. I was supposed to go to the theater with my friend who I got permission to come visit, and we drove all the way to the next town to the theater to see Jurassic Park 3. But Jurassic Park 3 was fucking sold out. So you know what we saw instead? Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. That's what we fucking saw instead.
Oh, I'm sorry. That movie's so bad.
To be fair, I was like 11, so I thought it was cool, but having seen that movie since, I was like, eh.
It's so bad.
I still prefer that to Advent Children, because Advent Children is a mess. But
they spent all their money animating her hair and nothing else.
Yes, they did. Anyway,
so
this is by the way, this is the first episode of Companion Chronicles Volume 12, the second Doctor Volume 2.
So we start
Curator,
talking
the egg.
Yeah, we start talking about this with dinosaurs because this is so. Is this only 2 episodes, right?
As is tradition for Companion Chronicles.
Yes. Okay, I thought so. Yes. So this is only an hour long. It's a very weird story. It basically, the first half is Doctor Who doing Jurassic Park, because there's this rich billionaire who's decided he's creating these micro biomes. So he's making. I mean, we're talking about Doctor Who. I hope you know what a biome is. But they're on a micro scale, so there's like these little tiny dinosaurs, and they're like, bringing them back to life and working on them in these little biomes. But then there's these accidents where they become normal sized, then escape.
Yeah, but the weirdest detail of this to me is that this is set after the Dalek invasion of Earth. The rich guy that like owns the compound is like, oh yeah, this whole section of England was fucked over by the Daleks, so now I own it, and now it's my dinosaur reserve. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yes, I forgot about that, but yes, I do remember it now that you're saying that.
Yeah, and then they found like this sort of like, I want to say miniature because it's not small, but like this Earth globe that's made of stone sometimes when it's time locked, but sometimes it's not time locked, and then you can put things in and out of it, and that's the teeny things that go big. And they never really explained where they found this time locked Earth replica globe, because they're like, oh, they're like no, hang on. They're like, oh, I think we found this in like some excavation or something, and I'm like, this sounds like some Xenosaga shit, but like,
can we stop pretending like the story makes any sense at all?
Well, what I was going to say, fuckhead, was that I'm going to reserve judgment on whether or not that's just this episode being weird, or whether or not it's going to be a through line for the rest of the episodes in this box set. Because if you remember last year's First Doctor box set, they kind of had a bit of a through line with the Doctor accepting regeneration and with the Daleks' sort of time distortion interference. And they had little snippets of that all the way through the episode. So I'm curious to see if this unexplained miniature time Earth globe thing has something to do with the rest of the episodes. Maybe it shows up in other time periods or something, or maybe its origin will be touched on later, or maybe it's just a weird thing in a really weird episode.
So that's the first half of the story, where it's like this Jurassic Park, where literally it's Jurassic Park and things are going wrong, and we don't know
things
why.
are going wrong. Yes, Polly stays with the. Okay, so basically, it's the crazy billionaire doing this, but the billionaire is like, he's sick or injured or something. There was an incident with a T-Rex, but anyway, so he's in the hospital bed. His brother is the scientist making all this work. Polly has to stay with him. The Doctor and Ben go out in a boat to try and catch like some escaped thingamajig. So
really, this whole story is just Polly and the scientist. Like the Doctor have some moments, but they're really tangential to the plot.
Yeah, which is fine. If this
it's a little weird, but it's for a season premiere. But it is fine.
I suppose so, but I mean, the way I look at it is that Companion Chronicles, one of the things that separates them from the main. From the monthly range, and
focus on the companion more.
Yeah, is the focus on a single character. I mean, that's part of the purpose of that narration. So zeroing in on Polly, I mean, that's just part of the format. If this was an early adventure and it was all Polly, I'd be wondering why you bothered to make Fraser Hines turn up. But that's just kind of how Companion Chronicles works, and that's one of the strengths, I think.
But so the point we're getting anyway is that so there's this bedridden crazy billionaire who has psychically linked his brain to all of the dinosaurs.
Oh, that's right. That's why he's in the hospital, because he's been acting like feral and like wounding himself, and it turns out that he's He swapped his mind with a
with
raptor. So
dinosaurs.
there's a raptor in his body in the hospital, and he's actually just like roaming free as a raptor,
But
having
not
a
only
great time.
did he become a raptor, he becomes all of the dinosaurs.
That's right. Yes, I think he like taps into the computer network controlling the experiments, and from there he like
not just dinosaurs, they're android dinosaurs. So
yes, they are cyborg dinosaurs. The idea is to make like cyborg dinosaurs that are domesticated and that you can have as a pet, I guess.
The story starts as Jurassic Park and goes so fucking off the like literally it starts as like, oh, Doctor Who is doing Jurassic Park. It's like, oh no, Doctor Who is doing its own Jurassic. Like it got weird in a way that only Doctor Who would.
Well, as soon as I think it was a cliffhanger, but like as soon as there was a talking raptor, I was like, oh no. and then as soon as he was like, oh, I swapped my mind with the raptor, I'm like, oh my god.
But not only that,
because I was worried that it was going to be like that. Hey, raptors were pretty smart.
No, but like this is but in practice, it's a perfect second Doctor story. Like it's the type of story they would totally do, but like they couldn't do this story. Yeah, if they could have afforded this and the technology would have worked. But we've seen stories like
yes,
we've seen stories like this.
I just kept seeing in my mind's eye that fucking like that Spider-Man screenshot of like, I don't want to cure cancer, I want to turn people into dinosaurs. Yeah. Like that's basically the story in a nutshell. Is this crazy billionaire like mind clones himself into all of the dinosaurs, and eventually they defeat him by putting the scientist's pet dog
into the
T-Rex and eating up all of the tiny evil dinosaur clones.
It's I mean, it's a borderline nonsensical episode. Like it follows a plot. It is complete nonsense. It follows a plot. Technically, it makes sense in its own logic, but it's just so weird.
I don't even know.
It's so
go that far.
Fun. It's just a fun, ridiculous story that we don't get these that often, but when they happen, I really appreciate. Like it somehow manages to work. But like you look at the elements and you're like, this is fucking stupid. Why would you ever do this? But it works.
I think I feel a little more harshly towards it than you do. I had a lot of fun laughing at this episode and wondering like what the fuck it was going to do next, because it had done just about every other goddamn thing under the sun. But I mean, looking at it a little more objectively, like it's a fucking mess. It makes no sense. It's absolutely ludicrous. It's got zero in terms of character exploration, which is the point of Companion Chronicles. It's just fucking stupid. It's beyond stupid. That makes it hilarious.
I loved it. It's so funny.
So yes. I would not say that this is a good story. I wouldn't say it's a bad story either. But this is definitely something that you would watch it alongside Troll 2. That's kind of where we're at.
I feel like I totally agree with you, but I would still wholeheartedly recommend this. Like you need to listen to the crazy dinosaur episode.
Well, I would say because it's in a $20 box set, hold off on that until we get through the other three, because if they're all shit, don't buy it. But
no, yeah. But like
actually, the current Big Finish sale right now is that they've put a bunch of recent box sets, including this one, back to their pre-order prices, so you can get it for $15 instead if you really want to save yourself a McDonald's meal worth of money.
Well, that's the price of a movie in San Francisco. So if one of these other stories is good, that justifies its price.
The price of a blowjob in San Francisco.
No, that's more expensive.
What about a bro job?
I don't know what that is, so I can't tell.
That's when you suck off a bro. You know what? I don't want to talk about this. Anyway, so that was Companion Chronicles. It's triumphant return. Such as it was. I really enjoyed like it is ridiculous. It is very stupid, but I really enjoyed that story. You know what this reminds me of? It's that one short trip. I forget what it's called. Where it's the second Doctor short trip where there's like little mini like Doctor Gremlin clones in the space colony like rooting everything. Yes, that wasn't very good either, but it's so bizarre that it's like you almost have to hear it once. Yeah, like this I mean, I literally messaged you like, what the fuck, Kate? Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, this I was gonna say this is brand new. It's only a few months old, but it's a new release, relatively speaking. So like, I haven't heard this either, and I'm just thinking, I hadn't got to it yet. I'm thinking, like, what the fuck are you talking about, Dave? And then I listened to it myself, and I'm like, oh,
it's so interesting in such a stupid way.
I have to give it credit for just how like it just takes the steering wheel and just sharp left turn off the rails, because
it's very
like for the first but like for the first 15-20 minutes I'm listening to this and I'm thinking this is Doctor Who Jurassic Park, just like you said, but I'm like, man, this is really derivative and stupid. This is Doctor Who. It's a should not be just a transparent parody of something else. And then it was like,
oh
well, they sure showed me. Well, I don't think I've heard this story before.
It's gone in a way only Doctor Who can.
Christ almighty.
So
I don't know what they're smoking at Big Finish, but I want some.
But I want some. So next up, we're getting into our Fifth Doctor monthly range stories. The first of which is the Son of the Dragon.
Uh-huh.
Sounds like an awesome Yakuza story. It is not. It is about Vlad the Impaler, aka Dracula.
Dracula.
So, I don't feel like I have a ton to say about this story, but it was very good.
It was excellent. It's one of my favorite Fifth Doctor tales.
It is a pure historical.
Yes, much to Perry's dismay.
Yes.
When she hears Dracula's involved, she's very much hoping for garlic and steaks and stuff.
Yes, it is very dark for Doctor Who, because it's dealing. I mean, it's dark in the. I mean, we've dealt with some really dark topics in our Doctor Who historicals.
Oh, you mean like raping witch cannibals?
No, that was not a historical, Kate.
No, but it was dark. It was dark, and that means it's good, right?
It is technically close to the level of darkness that Necromantia was, except this time it actually makes sense and serves a purpose because it was real.
Yeah, well, not just that, but there's something resembling a plot and maturity.
Yes.
I mean, can you imagine?
Horrible. It's not just one of the worst stories we've ever heard.
Yeah, I mean, far be it from us to complain about dark things. Like, I don't want anybody who listened to our Necromantia discussion think that we're, pearl clutching.
Oh my god,
people
no.
And all that, because we're totally not. It's like,
and if you've heard this show at all, you should know I'm a giant horror fan, and I love the darker, the more disturbing, the better. I'll take it. That was just bad.
And that's all the difference. Where, you can have a story like this where there's a forest of impaled people screaming for mercy as far as the eye can see, and it doesn't feel out of place, and it doesn't feel exploitative because.
I mean, it makes you feel it makes you feel a little disturbed and uncomfortable, but it's it's not like you're doing this to you're not doing this to make me feel disturbed and uncomfortable. You're presenting the reality, which is disturbing and uncomfortable.
Yes, exactly. So, anyway, basically what happens is TARDIS lands in Wallachia during Vlad's reign. And the Turks are invading and
failing.
They're invading with the help of Vlad's exiled brother Radu, who is in service to the Sultan. And
Vlad's grip on his country is waning because he is such a brutal leader that
he is a brutal leader. But his scorched earth tactics have stricken a lot of fear into the Turks. So,
and his own people, and at a certain point where they're just his own people are becoming so cowardly and submissive, they're not really serving any sort of purpose. So he's kind of destroying himself at the same time.
Well, yeah, that and it's he's gotten this reputation for himself as just a brutal and violent person, and I think the first sight the Doctor sees when he lands really is a guy impaled on a stake who's still alive and crying because it hurts.
It's intense.
It is pretty gnarly. And if I may regress about 25 years or so. It was gnarly. So anyway, they get mixed up with the Turks for a while. The Turks lose heart and they leave. Doctor make friends with Radu. The Vlad's forces attack the Turks at camp in the middle of the night, and there's chaos and confusion. And the Doctor and Perry, hey, bloodshed, death, war, and horror, all that. And Perry gets lost in the confusion, so the Doctor ends up sort of remaining with the Turks. But Aramem, during the battle, saves a fallen Transylvanian warrior from being killed by one of the Turks, and it's Drac. It's Drackler. So she rides off with him, and he basically he kind of pulls the Beauty and the Beast, and he's like, "You're gonna fucking stay in my castle and be my friend,
and fall in love with me,
and everything."
She doesn't. She decides at a certain point she decides to stay with him for political and personal gain, because she thinks she can temper his worst instincts and also save Perry at the same time.
Yes, because the Doctor and Perry and all of their attempts to kind of get into the castle and insinuate themselves in there to get Aramem out. Dracula being at this point, he's become so bitter and so paranoid, and he sees enemies everywhere, and he kind of manufactures his own misery. So naturally, he thinks they're spies. He thinks they're assassins. He just won't see sense. There's at one point he's going to have Perry staked, and just really just a charming guy. And meanwhile, his brother, even though the Turks have fled by this point, his brother is staying and getting the local gentry up in arms against Dracula. So Dracula flees from his palace in Wallachia to Castle Dracula in the north. And Perry, Aramem is going to stay with Dracula. She's decided to stay with him and marry him because that's part of the deal, is that if she does that, he lets Perry and the Doctor go without having them killed messily. And she, like you said, she thinks she can sort of help temper him to be a more just ruler. And also, the Doctor has kind of let slip that there was one historical account that Dracula had a bride who fell from the tower at Castle Dracula, and Aramem and Perry kind of get the idea that might be Aramem's role in history. So part of the reason that Aramem accepts that is sort of this assumption that that's kind of her fated role, I guess.
It's a really good story. I don't really have a lot to say about it. Like you described the plot, and really it's just the full 2 hours is just expanding on that and giving it depth and character and deeper it's not really a deeper meaning, but just like a real sense of what's going on. It's very well paced. It's very well executed. It's just and I feel like this is the case a lot when we talk about historicals. There's not a whole lot to say because they are.
Beyond setting the scenario out, I guess. But
they're technically supposed to be real stories, and even if you don't know all of the history, you know a little bit. But it's just it's a really good story. It's very well paced and executed.
I love the dark atmosphere and the horrific atmosphere of it, and
it just
it is the historical Dracula. It's not the vampire Dracula, but it still has the mood of a horror film, and it's very dark and misty nights, and
it really well characterizes the time and the place and how miserable life was here for everyone, not just Dracula or his villagers and his subjects, but the other armies. Like no one's really happy.
No. And I think that was everything in this story is done to a really just excellent level. But I think my favorite thing in that is the way that they had a very humanized portrayal of Dracula. It would be very easy to go camp and have him talk like Bela Lugosi. It'd be very easy to make him an outright monster, but this was very nuanced. and it's not letting him off the hook. It's by no means saying that he's still a monster, and you know, he's not a good guy, but it explores
why. He explores like what motivates him, and
because
like the way he saw, because basically Dracula's whole motivation is he saw these barons and like people beneath, like one level beneath him, swearing fealty to his father and then betraying him just to serve their own purposes, and he was so disgusted at that anytime he sees anything like that, he just executes people. Like he won't accept false loyalty. Like it has to be real.
Yes, and it's just there's just a great demonstration of the bitterness and the paranoia that drives somebody to feel like that kind of brutality is logical and that it's something they have to do to protect their country and themselves. And that is so much better writing than just a black and white villain.
This is, I think, only because we didn't finish The Mind's Eye.
Mm-hmm.
This is easily.
Well, I mean, we did, but
we didn't listen to the fourth part because it's later.
But it's a separate story.
I know, but it's still technically.
Whatever.
I'm giving this one the best story of the week.
Oh, absolutely, by far.
I mean, I really liked what The Mind's Eye does, and we'll talk about it in just a moment.
Yes.
But like, this is just so solid. And I mean, we usually really, it's funny because we love all the weird Doctor Who wacky time stuff, but we usually really enjoy the historicals. And this is just
especially when they handle controversial figures intelligently. We had this discussion with the Council of Nicaea, the way they handled Constantine and the difficulties with the church in a very intelligent way.
I mean, that and the way that ending kind of fizzles out, because that's the way it should happen. Like it worked out for everyone, so there was no triumph, there was no horrifying outcome. It just
the triumph was that they didn't have to slaughter each other.
Yeah, the triumph is everyone expressed their opinions and calmed down and went home.
Yeah, which I think a lot of internet forums could learn from these days.
Fucking think.
Yeah. But I mean, unless you think Son of the Dragon is totally devoid of fun, there is some good stuff with Perry. Like I said, as soon as she hears the name Dracula, she's on the lookout for vampire bats and God knows what. And I really enjoyed as a fan of the original Dracula novel and just kind of the vampire myth in general. I really enjoyed seeing aspects of the things that Dracula does over the course of this story that sort of give rise to the myth, and that's something that's the Doctor comments upon is you act like this demon and people start to think of you that way, and it's not even just like and they don't turn to the camera or turn to the microphone and be like, and that's how that got started. It's woven in very naturally and very subtly, where if you're familiar with Dracula as a myth, you can see elements of like how people embellished or mistook things and gave rise to all of this nonsense that we enjoy today.
All I have to say about this in the end is as much as I love everything that's happening, almost starting to dread when we get back to TV and we switch back to Perry and the Doctor have known each other for one story. It's like you're doing all of this amazing development and stuff, and then it's just gonna be gone.
Well, I think that's why it was smart to bring in Aramim for that, because then you can offload a lot of the development to her, and she's gone by the time we get back to TV. So So I mean, it's not that we haven't developed Perry at all, and Caves of Androzani does still work with this inserted. It just
it raises some questions, but nothing that can't be accepted.
Well, I mean, it's not really a big deal. It's more just like I thought you guys would be closer by now. That's kind of it, really. What's
the fake season with Jamie and the Doctor?
6B.
6B. It's not like 6B where it's like, well, this didn't happen. Like you're literally making something that doesn't make any sense.
there is a gap. I mean, it's maybe a bit. I think they've stretched it to the breaking point, but
Yeah.
there is a gap. So yeah, that's Son of the Dragon. Go out and buy it. It is
It's so
$2.99 now.
It's really good.
Yes,
Please, like it's totally worth $3. Like it's 2 hours. It's way cheaper than a movie. Like you'll
and
get
it's not that's not a sale either. It's one of the first 100 monthly range episodes, so it is $2.99 all the time. Go get it.
it's excellent. Highly recommend. Stamp of approval.
Yes. If I had a list, this is where I'd put it.
So next up, we have the first 3 parts, because technically the 4th part is a different story of The Mind's Eye.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a different story with a different title. So.
Oh, it is? Really?
Yeah. Yes. If you'll recall, we had this once before with, I think, during the Thomas Brewster storyline, where we had a release that was 3 episodes and then a 1-part story instead of just a 4-part.
I vaguely remember that.
So we have done this once before, but yeah, it was a little fad at Big Finish for like a year, and then they never really did it again. And I can see why, because it's kind of an awkward format. But anyway, so this is another one of those 3-in-1 releases, and The Mind's Eye is the 3-part story. So,
which involves so the Doctor, Perry, and Aramem have landed on a planet with these plants that put off these hallucinogenic fumes, basically, that put you in a dream state.
And then these tendrils swiggity swooty up your booty.
Yes, swiggity swooty up your booty.
You become one with the plant and live in your own dream world until you die.
So the Doctor has escaped, but we see Perry and Aramem's full dream world, which is... It's funny. It reminded me a lot of a recent run of the Moon Knight comic, where he was shifting between different realities.
All right.
So, like, there was Moon Knight. There was Moon Knight in an insane asylum. There was this crazy sci-fi world.
Well, I mean, meanwhile, there's like an expedition, scientific expedition / military expedition on this planet, and they want to use the things for stuff that's bad, I guess.
It reminded me, what was the it was fairly early on in the Richter syndrome arc where they were messing with the weird crabs.
Oh,
it reminded me of that story where there was a lot more going on with this research base than you would think.
Oh, that was actually the very first one. That was Cobwebs.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah, that was the very start of the Richter syndrome oldness thing.
Where there's multiple factions, because that was the one where the guy was the double agent and he wiped his memory to forget that he was And
except for that was actually interesting, and the expedition here is like totally unnecessary and superfluous.
I really enjoyed the story. I liked that it is totally superfluous, but I liked all the dream world. I liked Perry being lost in this weird situation where she's like the young girlfriend of this like old guy, and there's this stepson who hates her and is only like 5 or 6 years younger than her.
Yes, and yeah, that was interesting. It was surprisingly domestic for Perry, because Aramem's dream world is she's the queen of the New Cairo space colony.
Yes.
And there's like riots and stuff happening. Whereas Perry is just like, how could you, Michael? You're in bed with my best friend and also your secretary.
Well, it's funny because it did remind me a lot of, what was the story from last week with all the weird... I'm trying to remember what it was called. It was the one that was the 2 single episodes instead of 4.
Oh, the Tegan, the Gathering.
Yeah, the Gathering, where it was like
Tegan's miserable life, and she's going to die.
Yeah, but with the weird, like, seeing the flashes of reality and the flipping the TV channels and...
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. It's just... I think you and I are both... you and I are both on the same page with that. We like dreamscapes, we like twisted reality, we like ambiguous nonsense. You know, we like David Lynch.
This should have been my favorite story of the week, except it's just lacking something to tie it all together. Like, it was entertaining, it was fun, it lacked that oomph. And especially when you have such a fantastic hit out of the park historical like Son of the Dragon.
It is a tough act to follow.
Yes.
I think part of it is this, yeah, like you said, it lacks an overarching thing. And I I think the expedition storyline of like, I think they want to like weaponize the plant stuff or whatever, and one of them's an undercover FDA guy, and there's some...
it's literally, they can't think of a better acronym than FDA, which is of course the federal.
Well, it's not that they can't think of one; it's that they think it's funny. That's why.
Yeah, it's the Food and Drug Administration. So instead of doing that, it's the Federation Drug
Administration. So, but it doesn't. I mean, there's nothing about that is unique the way that there was in Cobwebs. There's nothing about it that's compelling. It's very by the numbers. Really, the main star of this, which is quite good, is the dream states for Perry and Aramem, and I kind of wish that they had just not done the expedition thing. I wish that they had either come up with something else that was more compelling, or just done away with it altogether and had just gone balls out surreal with it. Like,
we landed on a planet where this happened, and now the doctor has managed to break out, and now he has to figure out how to get them out. Like, you don't. But I'm just thinking of like
the first episode of, say, The Mind Robber, or the Tegan's dream sequence in Kinda, or even a couple of weeks ago, Roof of the World, which was otherwise not very good, but that episode that was just a Aramem head trip, and that was totally surreal. You know, if you had gone a little bit harder than that and had more of an air of just unreality and bizarreness to it, I think that would have made it more compelling, and then you wouldn't have needed some sort of real world thing going on. I think it would have made it more interesting. And I think,
and again, that's not to say this isn't good or interesting. It just it feels like it could have been so much more.
Yeah, I think I do like the dreamscapes. I think they're good. I like the characterization in there. I think that the scenarios that Perry and Aramem dream up for themselves are interesting given their character development, but they're strangely mundane. like even though Aramem is dreaming herself being in charge of a space colony, for Doctor Who standards, that's pretty mundane.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Having said that, I am glad this was 3 parts. I don't think you miss the extra episode, and I think that the strength of this is that this is more a vehicle for character exploration than it is for plot, which is, I think, more the saving grace. And the fact that it is short means that it doesn't overstay its welcome.
I fully enjoyed this storyline. I would also recommend it.
No. I mean, I don't mean to shit on it. I did like it. I think it was the weakest of our 5th Doctor stories this week, but it just, it could have been better.
Yeah, I mean,
could have been better.
I'd almost put it on par with our next one, but
and I think
there's like I said, let's just go ahead. I mean, I don't have anything else to say about The Mind's Eye, so yeah, let's just move into The Bride of Peladon.
All right. So we haven't been to Peladon for quite a while.
We have not, and this is a very interesting and technically weird story, because it's basically 2 different stories kind of mashed together in a good way, which is not normal. So, and appreciated. So we have a very kind of slight Peladon story. This is the quote unquote Bride of Peladon. It barely has anything to do with Peladon. Except for the first half, it kind of tries really hard to recreate that first Peladon story.
Yeah, well, I mean, it has nothing to do with Peladon, except for that it takes place on Peladon, has Peladon politics, has a secret at the heart of Peladon, and brings back all of those
characters.
Racers and characters.
The Ice Warriors and the people of Peladon, and it's
no, there's the Ice Warriors, there's Ari, there's Agador, there's...
Yes, literally the monster, all of the aliens, people from the summit. Mm-hmm. But then it turns into it's so weird that we're only 2 weeks out or two episodes out from the Reign of Sutek or whatever that story was called.
The Age of Sutek.
The Age of Sutek.
Yeah, well, it's more like the 45 minutes of Sutek, but you know.
We see the return of the Osirans, which was so unexpected.
I was not expecting that either. I don't think I've heard this one before. And so, yeah, I mean, having said that, I'm glad that we had the Age of Sutek earlier, because then I didn't have to rack my brains and remember all the details, you know?
Who is this?
Sutek.
So basically, yes, we're getting this Peladon story where there's some political intrigue. There's some stuff about miners.
There's stuff about miners.
Some betrayal in the mining.
The current king of Peladon, his mother died. His grandmother is kind of a traditionalist, and she's upset that the king is going to be marrying Princess Pandora from Earth, and she didn't like that very much. His mother allegedly died in a hunting accident, but that is so far from the truth.
Also, we're seeing her ghost.
Yeah, there's voices in the walls and crazy stuff like that. And also, the Doctor and friends don't land on Peladon. They land on an Ice Warrior ship that is damaged and crashing into Peladon. So they team up with the Ice Warrior ambassador. Ixlier. And so they kind of make their various ways to the Peladon castle after crashing.
But yes.
Anyway, so basically all these characters converge, and there's weird voices in the walls, and they're exploring the palace, and it turns out that there's this weird door with carved like a lioness, and there's hieroglyphs on it, and it's clearly something to do with like Earth, so that's weird. Ixlier is there because his sister was disappeared and feared dead, and he finds evidence that he maybe thinks that the Peladon royal family is there, so he's got a bomb and he's going to blow them all up. And anyway, so it turns out that down there is one of the Sekhmet, another of the Osirians, which I guess is
Osirans, and above Sutek, like the mother of Sutek, almost.
I think it was his sister, but whatever.
But more powerful, like on a different level, like on a higher level than Sutek. That was the impression I got.
I thought they were just kind of the same thing. But anyway, she apparently in ancient times from Egypt had been like locked in a special tomb ship and like flown out of there, crashed on Peladon. The castle was built over Peladon, and since then, in order to open the locks on the tomb, it's a blood lock, and you need the blood of four royal people, four royal women that'll unlock the tomb, and she can get out. So turns out, not a hunting accident for the king's mother. That's number one. Not a murder from the royal family for the Ice Warrior girl. That's two. Then they kill off the Earth Princess, so that's three. And then Aramum is going to be the fourth, and she poisons her blood with mandrake because Sekhmet feeds on blood. And in the legends, that was how she was defeated the first time, is that she was drugged with alcohol that was dyed to look like blood. So, yeah.
It's a story.
And then the Ice Warrior blows himself up, and he explodes, and Sekhmet just boom.
It's a story that started out, and I was like, I was almost bored. I was just kind of like, I didn't really know where it was going.
You like Peladon though, right? Like you enjoyed
Peladon, but I found the Doctor and Perry and crash landing with the Ice Warrior on the ship. That was super interesting. All the Peladon ghost stuff, I was not super interested in. I was waiting for a hook. And then the second half starts, and it's like, oh, okay, this came together in a way I 100% did not expect, and am completely captivated by. Like,
yeah, I was absolutely blindsided by the Egypt stuff tying into this.
It was a great twist. It worked.
One thing that I don't get is the Arcturans involvement in this and the whole mining thread. Like, so like there's the mining thread with the trisilicate that I think we know that from the Pertwee stories, but Peladon, that's like their one export or whatever. So
well, it was part of
one of the miners, like his son gets killed and there's an investigation, and then so there's this crime boss from Arcturus that
it's just kind of more backstory for the blood feeding Sekhmet.
Is
like,
it?
That's what I was getting.
So also, but like the Arcturus...
Also, Agador is here, but it's not our Agador because our Agador got super old and died. This is Agador's daughter.
Yes, and she gives birth to Agador kittens that are apparently quite cute. But anyway, so okay, so there's the mine thing. So Arcturus uses the Ice Warrior ship crash to follow them in, and he's like giving orders to the bad mining foreman guy or something. And
the bad mining foreman hates Arcturus and is ready to betray him and murder him.
Yes, and then so like he tells him to call a meeting, but actually Arcturus is planning a bomb at the meeting to blow up all the miners. But then Alpha Centauri like captures Arcturus, and I think when he's escaping, and I feel like that's kind of like the last we hear of it, and I don't remember what else he has to do with anything.
Me either.
Now,
but
I will be honest. I was playing Project Cars while I was listening to this, so I was hoping that maybe like you'll know more than I will.
I'm not really sure that kind of went anywhere.
No, but did it? I'm sure. I would say if we had a fan base, I would say that somebody tell us. But nobody will. But
it was fine because it wasn't super important, and the rest of the story was interesting enough to not make me care. Like
no, but like once the Sekhmet stuff started in, I was kind of lost track of the mining plot thread, and I'm not really.
And Aramem poisoning her own blood was great. Like just the whole, trying to break these seals and resurrect this like ancient god who just wants to wreak havoc throughout the galaxy. Like it thank God we had the Age of Sutek before this to remind us about the Osirans. Even though like you didn't super care for that, I enjoyed it to a certain extent, but it wasn't amazing or anything.
No, well, I mean, even without that, I mean, Pyramids of Mars is really, really good. It's just...
But it set the stage for this story for Sutek to come in and be like, okay, I know exactly what type of person. Yeah. Sorry, Sekhmet. What type of person this is going to be? Their power level, how intense this is. Like it was exactly what we needed to make this story as impactful as it could be.
Maybe the mining thing had more to do with the king's mother, because she was a stick in the mud about like being a super traditionalist. Like she still prayed to Agador and stuff, and like I think she was suspicious that the Earth Princess was like this arranged marriage was set up so that Earth could like take the mining rights or something.
Yeah,
maybe part of that was to make the suspicion. I don't know.
It's a good story.
It's like trying to make sense of the mill plot line on Twin Peaks. You're just like, okay.
Eventually it just burns down. And
eventually it doesn't matter. It's like, so, I mean, I guess the other thing to address with this is that this is the end of our Aramem storyline.
So Aramem decides to stay with the Prince of Peladon, which I really appreciated. Like, I was like, okay, if Aramem's going to leave, Peladon is a great fucking place to do it.
It's a good fit. And
it is. Because she's like, I want to stay. Like, this prince needs, guidance, needs to learn how to rule. There are a lot of factors going on here that I think I can help with. It was
something that really fits her skill set.
Yes, and her character.
Yes, and it's funny that I think we both kind of rolled our eyes about how many companions will leave to marry somebody they just met. But they actually point that out when Aramem leaves. Like, Perry's like, what do you mean you're going to marry him? And she's like, well, we get along pretty good, and maybe we can learn to love each other. But basically, I'm there to tutor him and to rule people, and maybe there'll be romance, and maybe there won't. That's kind of how these things work.
Humanizing this sort of ruler class type thing. Like, our marriage is not your marriage. It's not the same thing.
And it fits Aramem's outlook like a glove, and it definitely calls back to what she was prepared to do with Dracula earlier on.
Yes.
So I find that it's she's doing the exact same thing that somebody like Vicky did, but I find that a lot more believable in Aramem's case, the way that they actually take the time to explain it, and just not just as an endpoint too, but like when I was totally surprised at Suckbet, but at the same time I was like, of course they're gonna do this with Aramem. Like it's such a no-brainer that you have this Egyptian companion character and then you do the Sirens.
Yeah.
It makes total sense, and I never even thought of it.
It's a really great story, and it was a really good exit for her, and I'm really sad Aramem's going to be gone. We only have one more week till we get back to TV, right?
2.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I really like Aramem too. I think they did a great job with her
They introduced her early on enough to make all of this Perry stuff good. Like having two companions is good. I mean, we can only do one companion, that's fine. But when we're in a gap like this with such a small relationship, because what we have, was it 1 or 2 TV stories left before the season's over, and we changed doctors.
Well, 2 before the season's over, 1 before we change doctors, but we'll get to that kerfuffle.
Okay, yeah. So like, there's not a whole lot we can do with these characters in these gaps. So
yeah,
like,
you can't take Perry further. I mean, with Colin Baker, you can take Perry as far as you want, but with Peter Davison, like there's a limit on how she,
how much you can develop her, because there's literally about to be a big change that like any time a companion sees a doctor regenerate, it's really intense.
It is, and I mean, just if you take it all the audios at that point, Perry is so new. Like I said, there's Perry in Peter Davison's last story. I guess Perry is kind of at a certain point, and you can't really go past that with their relationship.
It's like a Ben and Polly thing.
Yeah. So, but even aside from that, I think that with a big gap like this, introducing a new companion, a new story arc, something to really drive the audios along is a great idea, because otherwise I think you run the risk of, and granted this is not Big Finish's fault, this is us just with our method of listening to this chronologically, you run the risk of getting a little bit sick of the same status quo after a while. Like I think we like Nissa a lot, but we had like 7,000 audios of just Peter Davison and Nissa.
Yeah.
And I think by the end of it, we were like, okay, we're moving on now. So, but I understand people being sad to see Aramem go, but at the same time, I'm really glad she did when she did, because
it was a very fitting exit for her.
It's a fitting exit. It's a strong exit.
You could have put more stories in between, but like this is a great way to end her story with the doctor.
And it leaves you wanting to see more of the character.
Also, I'm totally open to coming back to her and coming back to Peladon.
Maybe for maybe for a one-off, but at the same time, I think one-off. This is the one instance that I can really think of where Big Finish actually avoids having too much of a good thing. They let her come to a natural end and left it there. And I think Doctor Who, and especially Big Finish, needs a lot more of that.
Yeah.
So I definitely appreciate that. And part of this was when Bride of Peladon came out, this was during the transition from Big Finish being run by Gary Russell to Big Finish being run by Nick Briggs. And so when Nick Briggs came in, part of his new regime was bringing a lot of the previous, not all of them, but a lot of the previous running storylines to an end, and sort of giving himself a clean slate. And one of those was Aramem. But I don't feel cheated by that. I don't feel upset that Big Bad Nick decided that he wanted to get rid of Aramem, because I think if you overextended her, it could be very easy to just have it go on and on and on and not really have any end in sight. So
yeah,
not a bad thing.
No. It was good. I enjoyed it fully.
Yeah.
So what's on the docket for next time, Kate?
Well, we have the next episode in our Companion Chronicles season box set, which is called Dumb Waiter. And it has...
Is it about a food elevator, or is it about a lower intelligent food server?
I believe, I don't know. I fucking leave me alone. I don't know. I think the synopsis on the site is a bit scrambled to me. Maybe I'm just dumb. I believe this is a Victoria and Jamie story, but if it is, I mean, Deborah Watling is, deceased, so I don't know. I guess we'll listen and find out, won't we? And as for the Fifth Doctor, one of the other things that Nick Briggs did when he took over was he implemented the trilogy format in the monthly range. And next week, we're going to be listening to the very first of those trilogies in release order, which is The Judgment of Iskar, The Destroyer of Delights, and The Chaos Pool.
Interesting.
And I think he'll be. I think he'll have your concerns about Perry. I'll be curious to see what you think about that next week.
Well, we only have 2 weeks left, so it's not like they have to fill a ton of space.
No, and after this week, not to jump too far ahead. After this week, a lot of the audios we have left are things like the one-parter that we have delayed. We have a short trip and a few other things, so it's not really anything too huge. So
cool. All right then. Anyway, well. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, and we will be back next week with those stories. I'm excited.
Good.
This week was a good week.
It was a good week. It definitely reinvigorated my interest because Lord knows I was getting kind of sick of everything.
We're so close to switching doctors. We're so close.
I'm not sick of Peter Davison.
I'm not. I love Peter Davison.
I just was going through a phase where I just didn't fucking feel like listening to Doctor Who all night.
Yeah, well, when that was the week of Necromantia, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Fucking terrible.
Whatever.
Hopefully we'll never run into anything that bad again.
Probably not.
I don't think so. I think we hit rock bottom there.
There's some pretty bad stuff, but I don't think anything like that's a singular achievement in the annals of being bad. So
it managed to offend both of us. When does that ever happen? When do we get offended, Kate?
Pretty much never, but it's being offended not by content and more just by how terrible it was.
Bad writing.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Bye, everyone.